Even more tidbits from GW about the new edition of 40k. Time for another Age of 8th discussion. I have the power! Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, week 3 of the new Hammer, the new edition of 40k, and we've got some more rules releases from GW. Now I have to say the first couple of weeks was quite exciting with the new releases of the rules and stuff that were being filtered out. Must admit I'm getting slightly bored of that now. After 3 weeks, I don't know if it's bored or just I just want the rule book. I'm not sure, but it's the way GW are doing it, and I think we're going to have another good couple of weeks of this to come as well. So, without further ado, let's have a look at some rules, and the first one is going to be about points and power level. Attacker versus defender? Sounds like 4th edition to me. Power levels. Points. Power levels. Points. Power levels. Points. Power levels. So yeah, points and power levels. Now power levels first of all, now we've already seen this in the data sheet, data slate section that they released. So units will get a power level rating, and the idea is for when you're doing sort of campaign play, you can just say, well, let's play, I don't know, say 100 power level points, and then you just pick units that match up. And I thought that's quite a good way to get a quick and easy game in. Sometimes my buddy will come around, we wouldn't have even decided how many points we're going to play beforehand, he'll just turn up, and very often we'll say, oh, let's play, I don't know, say 1500 points, and I'll see him get his army out, and he'll say, right, I'll take a Land Raider, 250 points, I'll take Stern Guard, 250 points, and he'll make his army list like that because it's easy for him to make the list on the spot. So now I think this is where the power levels could come in quite handy. I think that's actually a really good introduction. I like that a lot. And obviously that's specifically designed for the campaign type of missions. Now, also they've indicated that there's going to be a release of some missions which sort of almost hark back to 4th edition, which I have to say is my favourite edition of 40k. And that's where you had missions that you would use a defender and attacker scenario. I played these a lot, I really enjoyed them. Now in the previous editions, the attacker and defender was determined by the different force organisation charts. So the attacker may have more fast attack, and then the defender would have, say, more heavy support, something like that. Well, now they're indicating that when you're using your power levels, you may find the attacker will have maybe less or more points, power levels, than the defender, or the opposite way round, and they're going to change the missions up like that. Now, I personally am actually really liking this idea. Now, when they first released the rules, I was all about match play. That's what I was interested in, because that's how I generally play 40k at the moment. But the more I hear about power levels or the campaign type plays, I'm actually liking that a lot. And I'm actually thinking I'm probably going to end up playing that, maybe more than matched play, especially if I'm just playing my buddies. You know, probably if I arrange a game with another YouTuber, like if I'm going to play Aceface, we'll probably play match play. But if I'm just playing my buddy, just having a fun night, we'll probably end up just playing the standard way to play. So at first I thought 3 ways to play, that's going to be useless, no difference than what we're doing. Now I'm thinking about it more, and more have come out about it. I'm actually really liking that. So regarding points, not too much to note. We don't really know too much here, except we do know that there's going to be a cap on the points when it comes to match play. And this is a very interesting move. I think it's a good move. It took me a while to get my head around it, and thanks to Aceface for pointing out a couple of things regarding it. Now, it is generally for summoning, and the idea is basically if you're, say, playing a 2,000 point game, you would, say, reserve back, say, 400 points, and then you would be able to summon in demons or units from there. And the idea is that you can pick and choose what you summon. So if you need, say, an anti-vehicle unit, you can summon an anti-vehicle unit. So I think I like the idea, the fact that you're not going to be playing with 2,400 points after you summoned your units, because that's just blatantly unfair. But then the advantage of having to hold back points from your main army is that you can then pick and choose what units come in. I like that a lot. Now, how this is going to affect other things, I think they've only really talked about summoning, but other things like the scarab farm. I mean, how are scarabs going to work? Because that's 3 points. And also, say, the tervigons, you know, when they're spawning out tervigons. I think potentially it may just be you can only spawn them out onto 1 unit, possibly, I don't know. But it's interesting to think about that. And the other thing that they were talking about was hot fixes. And one reason why they're not putting points onto the data cards, only the power levels, is that because they're going to be able to change the points levels as and when they need to. And no one can argue with that. What a great idea that is. I mean, we would love to have up-to-date or updated rules, and as they come along, you know, to fix and change things. So that's got to be a good idea. Right, okay, so that's it for that topic. Let's now have a look at stratagems. Stratagems, I remember them. So many stratagems, which one to choose? So stratagems, and again, not a new thing, something which we've seen previously, going back 4th edition, but not actually necessarily in the 4th edition rulebook, but in the Cities of Death codex that they released. That was a separate rule set for basically for buildings, or ruined buildings, which later in life they sort of encompassed that all into one, which was, I like to say, I know that was good, I like that. But at the time we had separate rule books, and the stratagems in there you could have, I think it was 2 or 3 stratagems for your army. You picked your stratagems and you place them on the board. You could have like a, oh, if you're in this building you get +1 to cover save, or you get to re-roll the 1s to hit, you know, that the usual stuff. So now we have stratagems in our main rulebook, and it's going to be combined with command points. So the idea is you get command points for having like a battle-forged army, for taking special characters you might get bonus points, etc. So you have a selection of amount of points for your army, and then during the game, which is quite interesting, you don't have to do it at the beginning, but during the game you can then select to use a stratagem. Now, do I like this? I think it's good because it adds a little bit of change to your army, a bit more tactics, let's say. I think it adds more tactical abilities to your army. But then also, I think it could be just something else to think about, something else potentially to forget, like your warlord traits. I mean, I can't actually remember. I think I've used a warlord trait maybe once, and then usually I just don't bother using them, or I forget to use them, or they're useless, etc. So hopefully the stratagems won't be useless because we'll be able to pick and choose them. So I don't think we're going to forget them, and I think they're going to add something to the game, add a little bit more fun and uniqueness to your particular army. So overall, I do like them. Now there is going to be a cap once again for match play, which again, harping back to what I said in the first section, I'm more and more liking the non-match play way to play at this moment in time. So that's interesting. Like I said, not exactly what I was thinking I was going to be looking at. So yeah, stratagems, I think it's good. Potentially something more to forget, but we'll see. See how that goes. But definitely a plus point, I think. Okay, let's have a look at the next topic. Sergeant, have you seen these things? They're massive! Bigger, better. The new Space Marines. So yeah, Primaris Marines. And this one I do need some coffee. Okay, so Primaris Marines. Bigger, better Marines. So what do I think? I think that GW are very, very clever, and personally I think this particular release is the reason why we had bigger bases introduced to the armies, the 32mm bases, because I think they obviously, I mean, when they released that, I mean, they've known about these Marines for a long time, let's face it, they've probably known about it for years, that they were going to do this. And I think that the introduction of the bigger bases was very much geared towards this new release which is coming, these bigger Marines. Now we've seen it all before. I mean, everything gets bigger. And just look at Outer Harlequins. You know, look at the old ones, the small little metal ones, and then the next release they get bigger, and then the next one they're on rocks and they're even bigger. You know, these things happen. Everything gets bigger in 40k. So it's not really a surprise, let's face it. Now, I think the other thing as well, just going back to bases, another thing which obviously, I think we all know this anyway, but I'm just going to say it, but just the introduction of round bases into Age of Sigmar, and then making the rules compatible, and now we've got armies which potentially, certain armies, not all of them, but potentially have a crossover more, you know, just the whole thing, the whole concept is obviously incredibly well thought out. And you have to say, well done to GW, because at the end of the day, they want to sell all of their models as much as they can. And, you know, it's also a benefit to us as well, the fact that we can potentially play both systems. So if we have two different groups of friends, that maybe one play EOS and one plays 40k, we can interchange, etc. So all in all, I think that general concept is fantastic. Back to the Marines though. So yeah, introduction to the Marines. I've seen obviously the pictures like everyone else. The new Mark 10 armour looks really cool. They don't look overly big. Thought they might actually be bigger when I first heard about them coming, but they're not overly big. They're just a bit bigger. 2 wounds, you know, slightly better unit basically. And they haven't made them too powerful, so it's good to see they don't have like a 2+ save like maybe a Terminator has. So they genuinely sit between Terminators and normal Marines. They're not quite a Centurion, so it's quite a nice new unit to have. It's not currently replacing the standard Space Marine. It's just a new unit, and they're going to introduce more of these new units. We would imagine that people will be buying the new cool looking Space Marines, and over time, let's face it, over time you will see these new bigger Marines probably infiltrating a lot of people's army, and the older Marines probably taking a side step down to at some point in the far distant future, as I'm sure Games Workshop vision will be, that everyone will be playing the whole armies of these new Marines. So again, I think it's a good release, I think it's exciting. Obviously, it's not just Space Marines. I mean, all the factions can take these units, some of the Space Wolves and Blood Angels, etc. And they've also instigated, which I'm personally more excited about, is that the Chaos Space Marines are going to have themselves a very similar unit. Now that is exciting, because if the Mark 10 armour looks really cool, I reckon that the Chaos version of that is going to look even cooler. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, especially with my Chaos Space Marine army, which is going to be coming up soon. Right, okay, so that's that. Now let's have a look at Tactical Reserves. It's confirmed. Trigons are going to be pretty good. I'm hoping it's going to be Morlock time. Morlock time. Yeah, that's enough thinking. Okay, Tactical Reserves, or Reserves. Very interesting, this one. Not only because there was a Tyranid featured in the section, but yeah, first of all, match play. You can now only have 50%. In reserve, 50% of your army. Now they did sort of do this, I think it was back in 6th edition, where you had to have at least 50% of your army on the table. But I think you could still, if you had say all drop pods, you could still hold them in the reserve. Well, in this new edition, match play, you have to have, regardless of how they come in, I believe, you have to have at least 50% on the table. I think that's good. I think that's great for that tournament environment. I'm sure that's going to make quite a big difference. It's also another tick for non-match play for me, because obviously without the match play rules you can potentially still do null deployment, etc., which personally I really like to play and it's really good fun. So yeah, again, you know, match play is not looking quite as pretty as I thought it would do. You know, honestly, I thought that I would only be interested in match play, but I'm not. So interesting. Right, okay, so yeah, back to the tyrannies. Now, they particularly looked at a Trigon, which we know is going to have obviously quite a lot of wounds now. I think it's 12 wounds, they've almost indicated. And deep strike rules are going to be slightly different now. So we know that they've got rid of the templates, and as we suspected, there's going to be no scatter. And how they come in reserve is also different. So as far as I'm aware, you don't have to roll for reserves. You can bring them on, I think in turn 2 or 3. You can choose when they come on. They come on at the end of the movement phase. And I think they indicated if you don't bring them on basically by turn 3, I think they just die, I think, off memory. And the way they come down is they have to be 9 inches away from another unit. So if you've got quite a cramped board, that could be a few issues. I think it's good that they don't scatter, but then also on the other side of the coin, now how I like to play, now Aceface will know about this. I'm quite happy to take risks with my deep strikers, put them right on the table edge in the corner and pray I do not scatter just to get that backfield objective. Remember that, Ace? And I think that's fun and I enjoy that. That's not going to happen now because you've got to be 9 inches away from your enemy. Now, having said that, it seems like you can assault from the reserve, from the deep strike. Now that is awesome. I hope that it means you can also assault from the flank, because that would be absolutely fantastic, and I think that would be needed. We know that shooting is getting powerful. In the last video, I indicated that my thoughts were that shooting is still going to be king. Now, potentially with this week's release of stuff, I'm thinking maybe actually assault may be back up again, potentially. So the other thing that we know is that units are going to be a lot faster. I'm going to come to that in a minute, which I think also is going to mean that assaults are going to happen a lot quicker. There's going to be no like turn 1, 2 and 3 getting across the board to get into the assault and being blasted off the table with the heavy shooting. So I think maybe assaults is still going to be up there with shooting from this set of rules, which is great. That's great to see. Now they also indicated about the tunnelling effect from the Trigon, which I think is really, really good. So at the same time that the Trigon comes down, you can then bring the second unit in the tunnel behind them. I think you've got to be, I think it was 3 inches away in deployment. Could be 6, but if it is 3, that's going to be hard to get a big unit of Gants coming out of there. But still, that's much better than having to wait a whole turn for the second unit to come out. So on the whole, tactical reserves, I'm really, really happy with what I've heard. And when you come down, you've got the 9 inches away, so a 9-inch assault just above average, which I think is probably about right, because it still gives you the chance that you probably may not get into the assaults. So it gives you that sort of doubt as such. I'm sure we'll have some stratagems that you can take to maybe re-roll your charge, etc. So it just all sounds really good fun actually. So yeah, looking forward to that, and it was great to hear about some Tyranids. Right, let's have a look at the next topic. What can you see out there? What can you see? Oh, let me have a quick look. Oh, there's some gene stealers over there. What should we do, Sergeant? What should we do? Take the vehicle over. Let's assault them. So vehicles, very, very interesting with vehicles. So we know now that basically you're going to be able to assault from any vehicle, which is great. Again, I think a much needed boost. And something really which has absolutely crippled my buddy's Blood Angels army is not being able to roll his Rhino up, get his men out and assault. You know, and I can understand why they sort of did it in the first place, but let's face it, it just killed assaults. So yeah, getting out of vehicles and assaulting, fantastic. We know that vehicles are going to be pretty fast across the board, and like I said just a second ago, it means that we're going to have much quicker assaults, especially with that 12-inch potential assault range. So that's great. Now they've also indicated that vehicles are going to be able to assault themselves as well. So they've actually, if you look at the profile of the vehicles, they've now got a strength, an attack, and ballistic skill, stroke what they hit on, etc. And you can actually assault with a vehicle, and also you can hit back with a vehicle if you're assaulted. They indicated with the Annihilation Barge, which has 8 wounds, interestingly, and 4+ save. Yep, fine. Now apparently they hit in assault, I believe it was on a 6+, so it's not going to be a power thing. It's just going to be more of a fun thing, I think. And what they've done by the looks of it is they tried to streamline the rules. They've taken out ram, potentially taken out tank shot. There's no mention of that, but it looks like tank shock's possibly gone. So I think ram and tank shock and everything will be gone, and instead vehicles will basically fight in assault. And it keeps all the stat lines very simple and clean, and fair play. At first I thought, a vehicle, why would a Rhino try to hit you? But again, back to the bolt pistol taking out a Land Raider, you've got to have a bit of imagination. That vehicle, if it's being assaulted, is probably, the man inside is going to be like twisting the vehicle and try and drive forward and backwards, trying to get people underneath their tyre tracks and stuff. I think they also indicated that a Land Raider is going to have trouble hitting you, probably on 5s or 6s, but if it does, it's going to be quite a nasty hit. You know, a Land Raider is going to be heavy, so if you get caught underneath a track of a Land Raider, it's going to hurt you. So it all sounds quite interesting, quite a lot of fun, and I'm sort of liking that. They have indicated that with heavy weapons on vehicles, it's going to be the -1 modifier to what you hit with. I'm sure there'll be extra rules where sort of you can move and shoot normally. I think that's actually been indicated as well. But the vehicle profiles basically now are working pretty much like all the other profiles, like monstrous creatures and normal infantry, and it's got to be easier and quicker for the game. So on the whole, pretty good from the sounds of it regarding vehicles. Now they have, just to round up this video, they have released a few army faction releases. So we've had Tau so far. Not going to comment too much on Tau, except I'm a little disappointed, to be fair. Storm Surge, 10 guns shooting at different targets. Okay, if they anchor down, they only just get to re-roll the 1s, I think it is. So it's not quite as devastating, but yeah, the other thing is that they can come out of an assault and then they can shoot normally. And that's going to be a biggie as well, because it means, I mean, you can imagine you assault a Tau, Storm Surge, it decides to come out of the assaults so that it can stay around and then shoot again next time maybe, but it can just come out of the assault and shoot. So yeah, I'm not going to comment too much on that, except I'm slightly disappointed by how powerful Tau still look. I wasn't expecting a massive nerf on them, because I think that would upset quite a few people that have invested a lot of money in Tau products. So I think they need to be still reasonably good. But who knows, maybe that's just how all of the armies are going to be. Probably all of the armies are going to be really powerful. I'm expecting really good things from Necrons. I'm expecting really good things from Tyranids. I'm expecting really good things from Space Marines. So I actually think that everything's probably going to be pretty powerful. Now they did do the Dark Elder one as well. There's been quite a few videos on that, but again they seem pretty decent. It's nice to hear that the vehicles are going to be very fast across the table. Still going to be a bit fragile, but they're going to be quite fast across the table, being able to assault from the vehicles, etc. They indicated that witches are going to be, I think they said, one of the top 3 most improved units of the game, which is great to see. So I've got 30 witches. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it's really exciting, and probably that's why I'm getting a bit bored of all these releases being fed to us. It's, I want the rulebook, give me the rulebook, GW. But like I said, that's not happening. So I'm sure I will be back next week with another roundup of a week's worth of releases, and I have my fingers crossed. If it's not out already, because I'm recording this video on the Friday, you're seeing it on the Monday, but fingers crossed by the time this video comes out next week, we'll see something about Necrons. Right, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Hit the bell button so you don't miss out on any of the videos from me on the wonders of Warhammer 40k. And see you in the next video.